Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. We had asked you all to send some SQL queries which we would try to answer. Thanks a lot for sending those SQL queries, and today's video is going to be about answering those SQL queries. So stay tuned. So I'm going to be picking up the query in the order in which they were posted on the community post. The first query is how to find space in a string. So here the example has multiple spaces and they want to convert the spaces or replace the space with a hyphen. This is a very good question and thank you for asking this question. Few days back we had posted a small video on a triple replace trick that can be used to solve these kind of questions. So I'm going to quickly walk you through how we can solve this, and I'm also going to post the link to that video and the detailed video on this topic which you can check out. So this is the query that we had earlier solved. I'm going to change this query to the exact question that has been asked. So in the question, this is the string. So I'm just going to pick up this string from here and declare this as part of my variable. In the first step, what we need to do is replace these multiple spaces by a pair of some characters like a space and a pipe. So just write your replace command. So this is the command, and we're going to replace the spaces, a single space in this original string, by a space and a pipe. So when you do that, let's just take out the hyphens from here. And we need to increase our string size. So I'm going to execute this again. Okay, so this is going to be a string now. Now replace the reverse combination, in this case a pipe and a space, in the output from the first query by an empty string. And that is going to give us what? Let's just see. That is going to give us this particular output, and now we can put any delimiter. So now in this case, again we are going to replace the original combination of a space and a pipe. So it's the original combination that we used to replace, and we're going to replace it with any delimiter that we want. So in the earlier case we wanted a space, now you want a hyphen, we can put a hyphen over here. So I'm just going to comment out this query as well. So the second comment was about performance tuning for stored procedures. So that will be a separate video. We are only going to answer the SQL queries in this video. The third one is a very interesting one. It is the bin card packing query. So you have to pack the shirts or whatever is your material in a finite number of boxes. So this is more on the lines of an algorithm that needs to be created. There can be different approaches that can be taken for this. So again, we will cover this in a separate tutorial because it's more on the logic, more on the algorithm that you need to implement for this. Moving on to the next query, select only the record which is having special characters, that is Latin, in address column. So if you want to just find out the columns which have the data which does not contain any special character, then you can write a simple query, and that is what we are going to write right now. So for this example, I have declared an address variable and passed it a value containing some Latin character, which this is the Latin character. Now I'm going to write my query. So I'm going to say select one where at address, and I'm going to use like. So what is the logic that I'm going to use over here is that my address variable contains a character which is non-numeric, either non-numeric or non-alphabetic. So not A to Z and not 0 to 9. So for that, I have to declare those ranges. I have to say it is not between A to Z in uppercase or A to Z in lowercase or between 0 to 9, and close your square brackets. And because we are saying it is not equal to any of these characters, you have to use a caret sign, which is this over here. Now, if I execute this query, I should be getting 1 in my output because this particular variable has this non-alphabetic and non-numeric character. Now, if you want to, this will also filter out on if you have any characters like a hyphen or all those other characters. So you have to include all those characters which are valid characters in your list, and the non-valid characters will be filtered out in this way. So I'm just going to execute this query, and now I should be getting 1 in my output. Now I'm going to just remove this special character from here and execute this once again, and you will see that I do not get any output in the record because now this does not contain any character which is non-alphabetic or non-numeric. So you can extend this logic and then just customize it for whatever requirement you have for a valid output in your case. So the next query is about dynamically selecting the columns from a particular table. So in this case, we are going to take the approach of writing a dynamic SQL statement. We have also done a detailed video earlier and the link is provided above. But for now, I'm quickly going to walk you through how we can do this. So going back to a SQL server, we are going to select some columns from the table employee. So I'm going to declare a variable, declare add column, and this is going to be a string type of variable, and you can define your values which are going to be your column names. So let's say I want to select employee ID and department ID as two columns from this table. And then I'm going to declare a dynamic SQL statement. So declare add SQL, which is again going to be varchar. So in this case, let's declare it to be varchar 250, and I'm going to start framing my statement. Now my statement, I'm just going to concatenate the actual select statement with these variable values. So the first part of my statement is going to be select. And this is a string variable, a string SQL statement that we are defining. So it has to be within quotes. So select and then give a space and end your quote. This is just a string that we're going to concatenate. For concatenating, we are going to use plus. Now we need to define the column names, which we are going to dynamically pick from this variable over here. So I'm going to concatenate the value of that variable, which I can reference by using at. So add call. Again, concatenate it with another static piece of string code, which is going to be from employees, which is the name of my table, and I'm going to end my quotes over here. So this is the SQL statement that I want to execute. So I'm just going to do a print add SQL over here and execute. And so this is the statement that has been generated. Select employee ID, department ID from employees. Now, if you want to execute this, you can simply use the method of exec add SQL. So there are other methods as well. So when you go to the detailed video, you will find all the methods. And I'm just going to comment out the print at SQL and just execute this statement and you will get your output. Now, let's say you do not want the department ID. So dynamically, you're passing these values through your GUI or whatever. And then you can just execute this. You will get the values only of employee ID. If you want all the values, you want to do a select star now, you can just put a star there and you will get all the values, all the columns from that table. Moving on to the next question. So the table orders has columns order ID, order date, client ID, want output who have at least one order every day last month. So I've created this sample table called orders. We have just two columns here, order date and customer ID. The logic that we are going to use to solve this question is that we are going to find out the count of distinct order dates for each customer. So if the customer ordered on 5 distinct dates, the count is going to come out as 5. Then we're going to find out the number of days in last month. So if the last month, let's say, was May, then the number of days should be 31. If the customer ordered 31 times, so if the customer ordered on 31 distinct dates in the last month, then he has ordered at least one order per day. So that is the logic that we're going to use here. Now I have data only for 1 month in this table, so I'm going to write a very simple query and then you can build upon this query further. So what we are going to write is, first of all, we have to find out the count of distinct dates for each customer. That can be done. We will do that later. But before that, let's see how we can find out the number of days in the last month. So for finding out the number of days in the last month, let's first go back to the last month. So just write a date add function. And in date add, we are going to subtract 1 month. So in terms of month M, we are going to subtract 1 month, so -1 from the current date. So get date. So if we just execute this much portion, what we are going to get is 12th of May. So we have just subtracted 1 month from the current date. So today is 12th of June. We have got now 12th of May. Now what we're going to do is, for this particular date, we are going to find out the last day of that month. So for that, we can use the end of month function. I'm just going to use that function on top of this. And now if I execute this, I will get 31st of May, which was the last day of the previous month. And now I do not want it in a date format. I want the day. So I want to count that the customer ordered on 31 distinct days in May. So I'm going to use another function on top of this, which is going to be the day function, which is just going to extract the day number from this query. So I will have that output of 31 in my output. So I'm just going to put this over here, and what I'm going to get is 31. So this is what I'm going to use to find out the number of days in the last month. Now simple query in this case, select star from orders, and then what we are going to do, we are going to group by the customer ID, because we have to find out those customers. So let's select customer ID over here. And then because we are using a group by, we are using a having clause over here, having count of distinct order date, which is going to be equal to the number of days in the last month. So this particular function over here. Now if I execute this query, I should not be getting any output because I have not created 31 records for each customer. So I'm just going to hard code this value over here. I've created 5 records for one customer. So he has shopped for 5 distinct days. So if you just put 5 over here, so he has shopped for 5 distinct days in the last month, and that is what I should be getting in the output. So customer ID 1 shopped for at least 5 distinct days in the month. So this is how you can use this query. When you have 31 days and you use this particular condition, you will get data for all those customers who shopped at least once every day in the last month. Okay, so the next query is in my mailbox, so I will get to it at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. Let's go to the next query, which is get top 5 employees with highest and lowest salary in a single query. So let's do this. Let's go to our employees table. We're going to use the row number function over here. Row number over order by salary. And by default, it is going to order in an ascending manner. So when it is going to order in an ascending manner, that means that the lowest salary is going to come at top. So this is going to be your bottom 5. And then we are going to order in a descending manner. So just copy this over here and descending as top 5 from employees. Now you can either make this as a CTE or a subquery. So let's just make it as a CTE with employee salary as and say select star from cell, which is a CTE, where bottom 5 is greater than, equal to, greater than or less than less than or equal to 5, or top 5 is less than equal to 5. And execute this query. So you will see bottom 5 and top 5. Now, if this is a little confusing for you, you can also add a case statement over here. So you can just say case when bottom 5 is less than equal to 5, then bottom when top 5 is less than equal to 5, then top and add as top or bottom. Now if we execute it, you will get another column which can help you identify whether it is the top 5 or the bottom 5 column. So the next question is Citibank, how to check bank account is masked or not. So let's go to SQL Server and solve this. So a few days back, we had done a video tutorial on dynamic data masking. So we had created a table called membership. I'm just going to execute this query right over here. Now in this column, we have mask some columns. Let's see, first name, last name, we have masked them. So what you can do to find out whether a particular column is masked or not, you have to search the system tables. There's a system table called sys.masked columns, and you can just join it on sys tables. Object ID is going to be your column, and then you can just find out if your column is masked or not by using this filter is masked is equal to 1. So you have to make use of the system tables, in this case sys.masked columns. This has all the information on the columns which are masked. So I'm just going to do a select star from this table first of all, sys.masked columns, and you can see you have all this information over here. The object ID is the column ID. In metadata terms, you have column ID, you have all this, lots of information in this, and one of the information that this will have is masked is equal to 1 if it is a masked column. So since we have a masked column over here, I'm just going to execute this. So in table.name, I've given the table name, and I'm just going to execute this, and you will get the name. Whatever name you're getting here is the column name. So you can put your credit card column name over here, and if it comes out as the output of this query, then that column is masked. If it does not, then it is not masked. So you can have this and you select column list, and you can find out whether the column is masked or not. So here what we have got in the output is that column name is first name, from table name membership is masked, and the masking function used as default. Okay, moving on to the next question, how to remove null value in left join or right join. So if you want to remove the rows, you can just filter on it where the value is null. So let's go back, write the simple query as well. So I have department.department ID and employee.employee ID. And I'm joining on from department, left join employees, EMP on department ID. So here we have joined on department and employee tables on department ID. So there are certain departments for which there are no employee IDs, and you can see that the value is null over here. So if you want to just filter out the null records, you can just say where employee ID is not null, and execute this, and those records will be filtered out. But if your requirement is to have those records but convert those null values, so you can simply use a coalesce function over here, just going to let you replace the null values with whatever you specify. So if you want to have a 0, because employee ID is an integer over here, you can just say 0, and if you execute this, then you will get zeros in place of nulls. Moving on to the next query, write a query to find monthly sales starting from first Tuesday to ending next month, first Thursday. So to solve these kind of queries, these are going to be a little bit complicated because they are going to involve some date functions. So let's do it step by step. Now, since we want to find out the first Tuesday and the first Thursday, so first weekday of some month, we are going to first of all declare some variables, date variables. So I'm going to declare a variable called at start date and give it the data type date. And I'm going to declare another variable called at and date of the data type date as well. Now, in the next step, I'm going to find out the first day of the current month and the first day of the next month. Now, finding the first day of the current month and first day of the next month or any of the other months is easy. We are going to use the end of month function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say declare at first current month as a date, and then I'm going to apply a function. I'm going to say first of all end of month of the current month. So get date is going to give me the current date, and I'm going to find out the end of month, which is going to give me the last day of the current month. So let's just write separate queries to make it easy to understand what exactly we are doing. So I'm doing end of month of the current date, which is going to give me 30th of June because the current month is June. Now, to get the first day of the current month, what I'm going to do is I am going to go back by 1 month. So I'm going to go back to the last day of the previous month. To do that, I just need to pass another argument, which is months. So if you want to go back by a month, you have to pass a negative argument. So go back by 1 month means -1. If you want to go in the future, you can pass a positive argument. So if you want to find out the last day of the next month, you can give +1 and so on. So since I need the last day of the previous month, I'm going to say -1. And this is going to give me 31st of May, which is the last day of the previous month. And then I'm just going to use a date add function to add 1 day to this particular date. So when I add 1 day here, I'm going to go to 1st of June, which is going to be the first day of the current month. So there are various approaches again for this. This is one of the approaches that we can use. So now I'm just going to copy paste this whole calculation that I did here and assign it to the variable first of current month. Now the next variable that I'm going to declare is the first of the next month. Again, date data type, and similar calculation we're going to use, but now we do not need to go back by 1 month. So I'm just going to leave it at the current month. So current month last date 30th of June plus a day is going to give me 1st of July, which is going to be the first of my next month. So I'm just going to copy this here and I'm going to get the first day of the next month. Now I have the first day of the current month, first day of the next month, but my requirement is to find the first Tuesday of the current month. Now these things, to find the first Tuesday of the current month, we're going to use some logic here. The logic is going to be simple. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to subtract. I'm going to first of all find out the weekday. So weekday is, if you find out the weekday, so you just have to say date part dw of this particular day. So here we are talking about 1st of July. So if I execute this, you're going to get 7. Now, if you go and check the calendar, the 1st of July falls on a Saturday. So that's why it's giving me the weekday number, which it has assigned as 7. So Sunday is 1, Monday is 2, and so on till Saturday is 7. So that is what it has given me. Now to find the first Tuesday, Tuesday is going to have a weekday number of 3, right? So Sunday is 1, Monday is 2, and Tuesday is going to be 3. So that is the weekday number that it is going to have. And there can be only 7 weekday numbers. So what I'm going to do is, in the first step, I'm going to subtract this 7 from the 7 weekday numbers that are possible. I'm going to subtract the current weekday number of the date that I am working with. So in this case, this is the first of the next month. So 7 minus 7 is going to give me a 0. 0 is nothing. I have to go to the next. Okay, so we are working with the next month this time in this example, and we wanted next month Thursday. So let's take the example of Thursday here. Thursday is going to have a weekday value of 5. So to go to 5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 5 over here. So my current weekday, this is going to be a variable. So it is going to vary depending on which day of the week you are on. So if your current day, whatever is your current weekday, 1, 2, 3 till 7, subtract it from 7. So you will get how many days till 7. And then add the number of weekday that you want. So you want a Thursday, so add a 5. You want a Tuesday, add a 3. You want a Monday, add a 2, and so on. So we'll take different examples to make it easy for you to understand. Once you have added, now I have 7 minus, in this case it is going to be 7, so 7 minus 7 is going to give me 0. So 0 days till Saturday, because I'm already on a Saturday. So I'm going to add a 5 to it. So I'm going to add 5 more days, because Sunday starts from 1. My cycle starts from Sunday in my case. So I'm going to add 5 days, which is going to take me till Thursday. So this looks good so far. Again, I'm going to use a date add function, and I'm going to add this to, because I've already calculated it here at first of next month. So I'm just going to use this variable directly over here at first of next month. I'm going to add this whatever computation I have done here, and I have to add in terms of days. So that is what I'm going to define over here. And this actually has to be the last argument. So we have to take it out of here and we have to put it here. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add whatever day I need. I'm first going to subtract from 7. I'm going to add that weekday number that we are looking for, and then we are going to add it to the first day of the month. Now if I execute this query, I'm going to just execute the whole thing. I'm going to get 6th of July. So let's go back and see what is 6th of July. So 6th of July is the first Thursday of July, which is what we wanted. Let's say we wanted a Tuesday. If we wanted it the first Tuesday, we would have wanted the date of 4. So for Tuesday, because Tuesday is going to be a 3, we're just going to add a 3 over here. And now if I execute this query, I'm going to get the 4th of July, which is a Tuesday. So this query is gonna work. Now we wanted a Thursday, so I'm just going to put a Thursday over here. So this is going to be my end date basically. So let's first calculate the start date to make it easy. Okay, so we wanted the first Tuesday of the current month. So going by the same logic, I'm writing it again to make it simple for you to understand, because this can be a bit confusing. So what we are doing here is I'm going to first subtract the current weekday. So let's find out the weekday first. So let's do a date part, and because we want the weekday, you have to pass the argument of DW, and what are we checking it on is first of the current month, first of current month. So this is what we are going to check it on. And I'm just going to run it till here. And you will see this is a 5. So first of current month is giving me a 5. Let's go back. So 5 basically means a Thursday, right? Because 6 is Friday, 7th is Saturday. So 5 is a Thursday. So first day of June fell on a Thursday. That is what it is telling me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 7 minus this particular number, which is going to give me 2. So 2 more days till you go to 7. And once you go to 7, you add those many more days on which you want to add. So what we are saying is that I want to add on a Tuesday, which is going to be a 3. So add a 3. Okay. So what we are trying to do here is whatever weekday we are on, we are calculating how many more days till 7. So we are going till 7. We are going to add that number. So it says that 2 more days till 7. So we are going to go 2 more days till 7. And then we are going to add the number that we have. So 3. So after reaching a 7, we want to go next to a Tuesday. So that is 3. So if we look at the calendar and go back to 1, what we are saying is that 2 more days to Saturday. So go to add those 2 and go to Saturday first. And then you want a Tuesday, which is the 3rd day of the week. So once you have reached the Saturday, the next Saturday, add 3 more days. So 1, 2, 3, and you have reached the Tuesday. So that is how this logic is working. Now what we're going to do is we are going to use a date add and add this calculation, whatever difference we calculated which needed to be added. We're going to add this to our first of the current month. And this should give us the right date. So if you execute this, you get 6th of June. So 6th of June is a Tuesday. Now let's take another example to understand this better. Let's take example of some other date. So let's say we are already on a Sunday, and then it takes us all the way till Saturday, and then it takes us to the next Tuesday. Then that is going to be the wrong result. So Sunday is 4th of June. So instead of this first current month, let's write another query over here. And what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to use the 4th of June as my date. So 2023-06-04, and here as well 2023-06-04. So what is going to happen in this case? Let's see what is the result. First of all, let's just execute this query. So the result is 13th of June as the first Tuesday of the month. But that is not right, because the first Tuesday should have been the 6th. Okay, we are on the 4th. It took us all the way till this Saturday, and then it went to the Tuesday. But I wanted it to go just till the Tuesday, did not need to go till the Saturday. So whenever your result, now let's see what would have been the result. So this is a Sunday. So this is the result would have been 1. 7 minus 1 would have been 6. 6 plus 3 would have been 9. So it actually added 9 days, whereas I only wanted it to add 2 days because I was already on a Sunday. So to take care of this scenario, what we need to do is now we need to add a mod 7 to it, so that it only adds the remainder part. It does not add more than 7 days ever. So now in this case, what is going to happen? It is going to do a mod of 7, which is going to give it 2, and it's only going to add a 2 and take us to the right date, which is 6th of June over here. So this is how this logic is gonna work. So if you find it still confusing, just write it down, take some examples, write the examples of some dates, and try to do your calculations part by part as we just did, and go over this part of the video again, and this will become clear. So what we need to do over here is we need to add a mod 7 to our queries to make sure that whatever we are doing over here is correct. So I'm just going to put one more bracket just to be clear. And same thing here. So instead of this whole calculation that we did over here, we can just use a variable that we declared for the next Thursday, and we can just use it here. And then use mod 7 as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the values of these variables that I declared above at start date and at end date to these values. So I'm just going to copy the calculation that we just did, put it over here, and then I'm going to set at end date and copy the calculation that I just did for the next Thursday over here. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this part for now. What I'm going to do is just show you once again that whatever we have is right. So I'm going to do a print of at start date and a print of at end date. And let's just execute this whole part. So you will see that the start date is coming as 6th of June and 6th of July. Let's go back. 6th of June is the first Tuesday for June. And if we go to the next month, 6th of July is the Thursday. So we are right here. Now we can just do the other part becomes easy. We just have to filter on this range of values. So whatever is your table. So here I am just using the values clause to get some data in a table, and so I have all these values which you can see range over. Some of them are in June before the first Tuesday, some of them are in July, and so on. So here we can just then filter on these values that we just wrote down. So add start date, and okay, I know the spelling is wrong here, and and column is less than equal to at end date. So our end date is 6th of July. Do we have anything? We have 8th of July, which should not come. Nothing greater than that. And the beginning date is 6th of June. So we have 1st of June. That should not come. And the last three entries should ideally be coming. So I'm just going to, okay. We're just going to execute this again, and you're going to get the three values. So this is how you can frame this query. Now the last query that we are going to solve, so this is also a little bit complicated. We are going to use some advanced concepts to solve this query, so stay tuned. So our requirement here is that we have got a table with some data. So there are some rows with data A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Now we have to dynamically convert this data in the different rows into columns, and we do not know the number of columns. That's going to be a dynamic value. So if you want to convert it into 2 columns, you should be mapping the data like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. If it is 3 columns, you should be mapping it into the 3 columns, and then starting over the rows again. So it's kind of, you have to convert the data from the rows into multiple columns and multiple rows. So you need to have a cycle of every 3 values. If you want to convert it into 3 columns, you want to cycle over every 4 values if you want to convert into 4 columns, and so on. So this is going to need some good logic to be solved, but the main principle that we're going to use over here is pivoting, because rows to columns are going to pivot. But since we do not have any IDs in this column, it's going to be difficult to group those 2 rows into different columns. We do not have column headers in the data, so we have to derive all those values in our code. So going back to SQL Server, I created one table which has this data. I have put data till I. So it only has a column, and so the column has some data like this. Now the next step that we're going to do, so before doing any step, let's try to create some IDs based on which we will be grouping the data. So before going the dynamic way, let's just say that we know that we want to convert it into 4 columns. So 4 columns means for every 4 rows in this data, the first 4 rows should end up as a single row with 4 columns, and then the next 4 rows should fall into another row in the same column. So you need to generate those column ID values and some key ID values that will help you identify the rows. To do that, we're going to use the row number function. So what we're going to do is we're going to say select and row number over order by. Now we do not really know what to order by, but we have to put something. So what we are going to say, select null, and it is going to let us order by C1 from Q1. So you can see that it just generated some column numbers for every row. It generated some, row numbers. It generated some row numbers. Now what we need to do is, we know that we have to convert it into 4 columns. So what are we going to do over here is, we're going to take this whole value and we're going to do a mod of 4. So here we're assuming that we know that there are 4 columns that we need to group the data in. Now if you execute this query, and also let's select our column, you will see that it generates a repeating sequence for every 4 records. So 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, and so on. So what I'm going to do in this case is, okay, let's also see what we did earlier. Let's take this first. When we did not do a mod 4, let's do it. Let's make it C2. So what we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we did a mod 4. So mod 4 is going to give us the remainder. So it gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, but where it is exactly divisible by 4, it is going to give us a 0. So what we are going to do in this case is, we are going to first subtract a -1 from this so that we get the right values. So now what is going to happen is, if we do a -1 in this particular one, I'm just going to do a -1 right over here, and let's do a -1 here as well. And now let's see what are the results that we're getting. So here what you will see is that you have got values 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So this makes more sense. So instead of having 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 is going to make more sense for us. So this is going to be okay. We can leave it here as such. And if you want to make it more distinct, you can also add a +1 at the end to it all. So you can just do a mod 4 and a +1 over here, and that is going to give you a nice numbering, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, which is what we wanted. So here we have got something that we can use at the column headers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, this seems to be a nice column header that we can use to map these columns into the 4 columns. Now another thing that we need is an ID which will help us to identify that these 4 rows are going to belong as a distinct row in a pivoted output. So we are just going to group by these rows. So we are going to have some grouping ID kind of thing that will help us identify that these 4 rows should end up being a single row, and their values should be mapped to those 4 columns in that single row. So to do that, again, we're going to use another logic. And in this case, instead of doing a mod 4, what we can do is simply divide by 4. So now let's see what is the output that we get. So you can see that you get a group ID 0000, 1111, and so on. And again, in this case, you can just do a +1 if you want it to be easily understandable and you want to avoid the zeros. So 1111, 2222, and so on. So now we have an ID based on which we can group by and then pivot the 4 columns. So these can be our column headers and this can be a row identifier. Now let's just change these values because we just hard-coded them. Let's see if the value would have changed. Let's see if we would have grouped them in 3 columns. Would this have worked as well? I'm just going to change it to 3 for now, and I'm going to execute this query. And 111, 222, 333, 123, 123, 123, and this works well. So now at least we have the logic based on which we are going to write a pivot query. So now let's remove this and let's declare a variable where we are going to dynamically pass these column names. So I'm going to declare a variable at column list. I'm going to make it varchar 200. You can make it whatever is as per your requirement. And I'm going to just pass some column headers like C1, C2, C3, C4, and so on. So I'm assuming, again, I'm just taking 4 columns. Let's say that we have these 4 columns based on which we want the grouping to be done. The next step is to extract the number of columns from this column list that we have got over here. So I'm going to simply say select write at col list 1. So if I do that, I should be getting number 4, which is exactly what I want in my case. So I'm going to use this simple logic. You might have a different requirement. You can just write your query as per that and get the number of rows, number of columns that you need to turn your data into. So next step is going to be a pivot function. Now, since we are going to use some variables to pass our column names and column values and so on, we have to use dynamic pivot. To use a dynamic pivot, we have to construct a dynamic SQL query. So now I'm going to declare at SQL as and varchar max. But before we convert it into a dynamic pivot query, let's first write the pivot function by just hard coding and see what is our output. So we will write select star from, and whatever query we have written over here is going to be our source data. So as source table, then write pivot max of. So this column name that we have is called column, which has the values for us. So max of column or column name in, let's just hard code for now, C1, C2, C3, C4 as pivot table, so as P. Now here, since our column names are C1, C2, C3, C4, and what we generated over here is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, we would need to add a C here. So I'm just going to do a concatenation and convert this thing as varchar, and this should work for us. So we have this conflict over here, C1, because we have used C1 over here and C1 here as well. So let's call it ID. And if we execute this pivot query, we are going to get the right result. So you can see here that C1, C2, C3, C4, these are the 4 columns we have got, and we have got the values pivoted to these particular rows and columns. Now this is okay. We have hard coded the number of columns in many places. Now we want to take it dynamically. So to take it dynamically, we have to convert this into a dynamic pivot statement. So the same statement we're going to convert. First of all, this 4 is going to come as, let's declare another variable, and first to declare at number column integer set at the column equal to write at col list 1, and let's just print at number of column. So we got 4, so we're going to use this value. Okay. Now what we're going to do, let's just comment out this statement and start converting this into a dynamic SQL statement. So set at SQL equal to, so first of all we have to find out the different substrings that we have to concatenate. So this is a static part. Select star from this, all this can be a static part till these column names have to be substituted. So even this number has to be substituted. Let's first substitute the column names. So in Okay, we even have to take this bracket inside. Plus, this is going to come from our variable now, which is going to be at call list plus, and then we have to start doing this as P. So now we have this thing ending here and this, so we have this one variable defined over here. Here you can see it's showing an error because we had a quote here which is it is giving as an error, so we need to escape it. To escape quote, you just need to put one more quote. So I'm going to just put one more quote on both sides of it, and it is going to escape it. And now we have to hard code. We have to replace this by another variable which is at num call. So wherever you have to replace, first you have to and your quotes, do a plus, use your variable at num call, do a plus again, and do like this. And one more place we need to do over here. So again, turn your quotes, do a plus at num call, do a plus again, and take care of your quote. Now this seems to be okay. What we're going to do now is just print this SQL to see everything is fine. So print at SQL and just execute the whole thing again. Okay, conversion failed when converting the varchar value. Select to data type int. We have defined this over here as int. Let's define it as varchar 10 maybe. And now let's see if it works. And execute. Okay, now you have the statement over here. So let's just go to the statement. Select start from, select column, row number seems to be right. 4 seems to be rightly replaced. The column names seem to be right. So everything seems to be right in the statement as far as replacing the values of the variables is considered. So instead of doing a print here, I'm going to now do an execute at SQL. I'm going to execute this whole thing and I'm going to get my results. So this is how you can achieve this. This was a bit of complicated, so you have to go part by part. You have to start by achieving one objective at a time, one small requirement, finish one requirement, go on to the next requirement, and so on. So this is how it can be achieved. You can change your numbers. Let's just try changing it to 2 now. So I'm just going to keep it to C1 and C2. And now let's execute. And we should be getting the right result. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and null. So we have the right results over here as well. So this is how you can achieve this dynamic pivoting. So I hope that you found this video useful and your questions were very interesting. Thanks a lot for sharing all these interesting questions with all of us. If you like this video, then please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be posting many more videos soon. If you want videos on any particular topic, do let us know in the comments below and we will try our best to make videos on that topic as well. Thanks again. Thanks a lot for watching. We will be sharing all this code with you. There will be a link in the description box so you can go and easily practice this queries as well. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye.